Welcome to the MMA Xtreme Fantasy Breakdown, UFC 129 edition. MMA Xtreme Fantasy is a stat-based MMA fantasy type league that is modeled after the most popular fantasy sports. You pick a team of 7 different fighters that all represent different statistical categories. Your team will compete against other teams in a league in which you can follow with live stats and point updates through the fights of MMAExtremeFantasy.com. This show will consist of breaking down the actual fights of UFC 29 by using a 5-star rating system, which shows how we feel each fighter performed in a statistical category. Actual fantasy sports focus on the athlete's statistics and not wins-losses, and we are no different. The show breaks down each fight statistically while staying away from the end outcome. This is a fresh new way at looking at the nuts and bolts of the fights as well, and not just knockout or fighting a submission. With this, we will give you a brief overview of what you want to look for when picking your team, and at the end of the show, we will have a special guest on that will give his picks for the sleepers of UFC 129. Believe me, with a little luck, his picks will go from chicken shit to chicken salad in no time. Alright, let's get started. The first fight we're going to look at is Jake Ellenberger versus Sean Pearson. Even though Jake took this fight on short notice, his wrestling is far superior. Jake has the potential to be very dominant in the takedown category, as well as both of them could have value in the most time on ground category. If Pearson could keep the fight standing, he might be worthwhile in total successful strikes, simply for the fact that he threw a total of 253 strikes in his one fight with statistical data. Moving on to our next fight, which is Rory MacDonald versus Nate Diaz. This could be a very entertaining fight that could see the category we call the flex really come into play. The flex category consists of knockdowns, submissions, passes, and sweeps. Nate Diaz has a total of 15 submission attempts, 12 passes, and 4 sweeps in his last 12 fights. However, Rory MacDonald will have the edge in the takedown category, to Diaz getting taken down over the half the time his opponents attempt one, while Rory hasn't been taken down yet in his 2 UFC fights. The next fight on the card is Ben Henderson versus Mark Bocek. This could be another battle that could be fought a majority of the time on the ground. Henderson is averaging 4 successful takedowns a fight, while Bocek only has a takedown defense of 40%. Both fighters pick and choose their shots, so they don't throw a ton, and they both are under 50% in successful striking percentage. Bocek could be very valuable in the knockdown, submission attempt, pass, and sweep department, since he does have 37 passes in 8 fights, as well as a wicked submission game. But with Henderson's wrestling abilities, he might not be able to get as many chances for passes. Henderson might also use his improving striking ability to keep out of Bocek's strengths. The next matchup is between Jason Brills and Vladimir Matyashenko. Statistically, Jason Brills is one of the most active fighters in the game. He's averaging close to 90 strikes per fight and has 44 takedown attempts, 6 submission attempts, and 24 passes, all within 5 fights. Vladimir is a crafty veteran himself with an array of stats, which means this can be fought just about anywhere. This fight could produce a large amount of stats. However, when 2 active fighters like this meet, it most likely ends well short of the final bell, which could mean a shortage of stats in the end. When was the last time you didn't see Randy Couture or Lyoto Machida part of the main event? That goes to show you just how stacked this card really is. This fight is the one that brings up the old saying that trainers like to use: who is going to impose their will? Can Randy establish the clinch and take him down, or will Lyoto knock him down in the process? They both have very distinct styles of fighting that is great for picking stat categories, but which one will really execute and come through for your team? If Couture can establish the clinch, he might get a solid number of successful strikes out of it from dirty boxing, but if Machida can keep his distance and pick his shots, he could be a great pick for successful striking percentage. The co-main event of the evening is Jose Aldo versus Mark Hominick. This is going to be a very exciting fight to watch, since they both very rarely go for the takedown, and they just like to stand up and go toe-to-toe. Striking categories are obviously categories you want to look for, but just a few words of caution before jumping right in there. Both fighters have great striking defense. Aldo's opponents only connected with him on 22% of their strikes in 8 recorded fights, and Hominick's opponents only connected with 25%, again with 8 recorded fights. Second, can these two stand for 25 minutes without one getting knocked out? If so, most time standing is also a good pick for one of them. If not, the stats for this fight might be in short supply. Finally, the main event of the night, it's George St. Pierre versus Jake Shields. George St. Pierre hasn't been the most exciting to watch since he hasn't been finishing his last couple of opponents, but he has looked completely dominant. Because of this safe, but effective game plan, it is going to limit the stats that Shields will be able to produce. Fantasy owners have to be wary of what categories they use him for. He has the tools, but but are they going to be good enough against St. Pierre? On the other hand, Georges St. Pierre could be used with confidence in almost any category. There's a decent chance the fight will go the entire 25 minutes, so there's an opportunity for plenty of stats to be produced. Now it's the time of the show where we bring in our special guest to give his sleeper picks for the upcoming fight. For all of you who don't know what sleepers are, they are fighters in which wouldn't be considered the top picks for that particular category, but because maybe your top pick for that category is already being used in a different category, you might need another option, which would be a sleeper. Please help me in welcoming Brock Lesnar to the show.
Stop clapping. Stop clapping. You're all chicken shit. I hate each and every one of you.
Welcome to the show, Brock. How was your time on The Ultimate Fighter?
Well, you know, I spent my entire time taking chicken shit and turning it into chicken salad.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression after I saw the first episode. So how do you think your upcoming fight with Junior Dos Santos is going to go?
Well, it's gonna go like this. He's gonna play the role of chicken shit, and I'm gonna play the role of chicken salad. Chicken shit does not mess with chicken salad.
Huh. But what if he punches you in the face?
I never really thought that far ahead. I've literally spent my entire training camp thinking of that chicken salad thing.
Alright. Well, let's get to your sleeper picks.
Right. Well, my picks are Machida for total time standing, because Couture is not going to be able to catch him, and the fight's going to mostly stay fought standing. Jake Ellenberger will not only be good in the takedowns category, but also sleeper in the striking defense percentage category. Finally, the last sleeper of the night will be Jake Shields when he hits the canvas in the first round. Brock made a joke.
Well, there you have it. Thanks, Brock, and good luck with the upcoming fight.
Yeah, I would thank you for bringing that whole striking thing to my attention again, but Brock doesn't apologize to anyone.
Alright, so that concludes MMA Extreme Fantasy Breakdown of UFC 129. If you have any other questions about the breakdown of the leagues themselves, feel free to check out our FAQ page on the website or email us at info@extremefantasyleagues.com. Thanks for joining us, and look for our MMA Extreme Fantasy Breakdown of UFC 130 the first weekend of May. See ya! Disclaimer, ExtremeFantasyLeagues.com LLC is not affiliated or endorsed by the UFC.